Hi guys, are you going stir crazy yet? I hope not. Nicole and I are doing okay over here for the most part, but there are definitely some days we get a little bit tense, just like I'm sure you guys get a little bit tense too sometimes. The thing is, we had our plans, just like a lot of you guys had your plans, and right now, a lot of those plans feel like we're just spinning our wheels on them. Sometimes it's like that. We're doing our work, we're doing our thing, and our lives aren't really all that impacted right now, but there are some things we'd like to be doing and we're not doing, and sometimes it just feels like we're spinning our wheels. And sometimes we wonder, is there really a point to all this? I mean, if there is a point to these kinds of things, what's the point of this thing? And maybe you feel like that a little bit sometimes too. So I thought I'd share this little story with you about what was going on with me a few days ago. My wife and I have been married 10 years. We know each other pretty well, and we definitely have plans going on all the time. We have ideas about what we want to do. And it was the first time in a long time that I had just been home with my wife for a long period of time, days at a time. And I'm still working at home just like normal, but the thing is, I'm home so much more now because I'm working at home, but I'm also home because I'm not going out and doing things at night like I used to. And, so I get to see her in the morning do the things she does. She has this devotional thing that she does every morning. She reads before she even gets up. And then I get to see her with the little guy where I hear the noise coming downstairs, thuddity, 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 and, up she's at it and she's going and she's making food and getting stuff ready for the day. And then I get to see her now switch over to teenager mode, when our older child comes down and wants things and is talking about stuff, and then the little guy needs stuff, and I just see her switch back and forth, and then she switches into adult mode and she's talking to friends and helping out people that she knows and talking about things that matter and making plans and schedules and planning meals and all kinds of stuff. And it just kind of hit me one day after I watched her do all of these things during the day. My wife is really incredible. Like, incredible. Like, wow, I cannot believe how amazing this person is that I'm married to. And it's not that I didn't know before that she does all of these things. I mean, I've seen her do these things a lot. But it's pretty rare that I get a chance to see all of it come together and realize that all of these facets of this person are all the same person, all in the same day, every day. It's really remarkable. And what I want to tell you is that I think that sometimes God will use a moment of disruption without any interruption in it to show us something, to teach us something, to give us an epiphany or give us the answer to some question maybe we didn't even know enough to ask, but something that's really important to the direction of our lives that we just wouldn't get at any other time. We're still finishing up the bad guys. This is our last bad guy of the series. And our last bad guy shows us that God can do a lot if you just give him a little time in the middle of a disruption. This last bad guy doesn't have a name, just a job. He's called the centurion. We don't know his name. And if you're in the army, you might call him a captain or maybe a major or something in between, because he's in charge of 100 men. He's got these guys he's responsible for all the time. He's probably a really level-headed guy, probably very responsible. You don't get to be a centurion by being a bum, and he likes to be productive. He's probably the kind of guy who doesn't want to just sit on his heels and hurry up and wait, like they say in the army sometimes. And this day that we're looking at is the day that Jesus is sentenced to death, and this is the day that the centurion's company has crucifixion duty. They keep a company of men sitting around in case of a riot the day that Jesus is sentenced. It's a political thing. It could go bad, so they have all these guys around, and no doubt our centurion watched as the people yelled for Jesus to be crucified and yelled for them to release the actual criminal and actually punish Jesus instead. He heard the claims that were made about Jesus, that he says he's the Son of God. He took all of that in that day. It probably seemed like a bunch of just religious nonsense to him, just like so many other times that he'd witnessed these kinds of scenes. But on this day, he was there, and not only was he there, but he was probably there for that long, slow walk in the hot sun, waiting for these half-dead, beaten men to pull their crosses all the way through town for everyone to gawk at. And he was probably there as the people tried to give Jesus the drugged wine that they offered him. You know, they offered him this wine that was filled with myrrh and some other things that might actually dull the pain. It was just a little bit of mercy from some townspeople that they offered him that. He wouldn't take it. So strange. But he was there and he took that in. He wouldn't take this wine. How strange. It was probably the first time that someone had ever not taken it before. He stood by as they nailed this man to the crossbar, one spike through each wrist to hold him and bound the feet just like they always did. And he probably waited for the usual cursing to begin, just like you'd expect, just like anyone might do if someone was punishing you for the last time with iron spikes to the wrist. But the strangest thing happens as the centurion is overseeing this. This man, totally different than probably any other man that they crucified, instead of calling down God's punishment on them for all time, he actually is praying to the God that he worships, saying, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. That's from Luke 23:34. And he stood there taking this in for hours, watching people who put him there actually come and mock him and sneer or smile, fake smiles, and laugh and joke around about his agony as he stood there with skin and shreds coming off of his back, his organs showing, gasping for breaths every other moment. Luke wrote they sneered at him and they said things like, if you're the king of the Jews, then save yourself. Luke 23:37. This went on for hours. Onlookers yelled the same things. And of course his soldiers took part in it. Maybe not as extreme as some of the religious leaders. It wasn't personal to them, but by this point they were pretty callous to this sort of thing, and it was probably just something that they did to pass the time. Mock the guy who's dying on the cross. But something strange happens in this that most might not even know. He looks and he sees this man, and at no point does this man call out and curse them. He doesn't curse them. He doesn't beg them for mercy. He doesn't beg them for anything, actually. He doesn't say much of anything. He seems to just absorb all of it. The pain and the agony and the insults and the embarrassment or the shame of it, standing there naked in front of an entire town, nailed to a cross. 3 hours in, Mark wrote, the place goes dark, like real dark, nighttime. In the middle of the day, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Maybe the eeriest thing that some of these men have ever experienced. Nothing normal about darkness at 3 o'clock. And then in Jesus' later hours, in his most terrible moments, he's not doing what so many other men might do in the same scenario. He's making final arrangements, basically, and taking care of people and trying to ease their concerns or show them one last bit of hope. In John 19:27, he catches a glimpse of his mother standing next to John, his closest disciple, and he says, "Woman, look, your son. John, look, your mother." In other words, take care of her. She's yours. You're his. It's just make sure that you guys take care of each other. That's your responsibility. Now, 6 hours in, Jesus is running shorter and shorter of breath and starts to call out some old Jewish scripture reference. It probably sounds like a poem to him or some old song. He says, my God, why have you forsaken me?" It's an old psalm, piece of it. And as Jesus gives out some of his last breaths, he offers real hope to one of the dying men. Probably nobody had ever done anything like this before in his memory, to take the time, to take the energy of those last breaths to offer to someone as comfort and say, "Truly I tell you, today you'll be with me in paradise." To that repentant rebel that we talked about just a little while ago. Then Jesus draws his last breaths, says it's finished, and dies. And at that moment, an earthquake hits. And in the middle of it, people are screaming down below in the village because of some other wild things that are going on. And after all of this time, this centurion spends with this dying man, it's at this moment, at the conclusion of his life, Mark writes, when the centurion who was standing right in front of him, that's Jesus, saw the way that he breathed his last, saw the way he died, he said, truly, this man was the Son of God. Luke actually wrote that he began to excitedly talk about all of the good, the true good he saw coming out of this man in these moments that he spent with this dying, sentenced man. But it wasn't until that moment, those last hours, and that last scene, that he actually has it all come together for him. It took all of that time. It took seeing all of those pieces, one after the other, after the other, after the other. And finally, it all just comes together to him in a whirlwind in the middle of these signs and strange things. This man had to have been a perfect man. This man had to have been who they say he was, the Son of God. It had to have been true. This wasn't just an innocent man. This was a perfect man. He was exactly who they were so mad at him for saying that he was. Now, he might never have made anything out of those little incidents, those strange little noteworthy aspects of this man's life, but seeing it all together like that, hour after hour after hour, it's enough, and it hits him. It comes together for him, who this man must have been. God has set the stage for him to see all of the pieces come together in a way that he wouldn't have been able to see before. He uses it and he makes it into the single most important time of this man's entire life. What I want to say to you out there is that just like it was for him, there are a few moments that come along in our life where we have a serious disruption. Something really forces us to just stand and wait or sit or spin our wheels, whatever it looks like for you in your moment. It doesn't happen a lot. It's rare, but there are a few times that it does happen. And what I want to say is, although it was something that he wouldn't have chosen and probably nothing that we would ever choose when we go through it, the truth is, it creates a moment unlike any other moment where God can take that opportunity to give us something, direction, an answer of some kind of a question we should be asking, and then give us an answer. Something, an epiphany, whatever you need most. There's a very good chance that God can actually use that time to give it to you in that time. There's only so many times, you can check social media before it gets boring, and only so much creativity that a person can experiment with in 1 week. Trust me, I've tried. I know some of you are out there doing all the things that you've always wondered about. There's only so much time that you can work on projects, only so much money that you have to work on projects with. But eventually, the distractions have to cease, or they slow down to a point. And it's really the perfect time to really see something that matters. It's the perfect setup for you to just stop and pause and really think hard about your life, how you see God, how you see yourself in the grand scheme of God's plan. It's the perfect time to ask a question like, who is Jesus really? It's the perfect time to ask, what do you really want to do with my life, Jesus? Really want to do with my life? It's hard to do that sometimes, isn't it? It's hard to give God the opportunity to show us something like that. To give him that much time, to give us that much time to focus and just dwell and question something really important that God might want to show us or tell us. You don't have very many moments in life that have the potential to transform your life the way a disruption can really work for you. I think the question in a moment like this is not so much what is the point of this, but would you let God show you something in this if He wanted to? Would you let Him use a moment like this? Would you give Him that time? Or would you fight it like so many of us do naturally? I know for me, in times like this, my natural tendency is to just fight it, to try and keep everything just as normal as I possibly can, to stay as busy as I possibly can, to do all the things that I had in mind in spite of everything that's going on. And yes, I take the precautions just like everybody else, and I'm not going to the stores as much, and I'm not doing anything I don't really need to do, but I still try at home to do a lot of the things that I would normally do, and I have movie night, and I read things, and I go out and work on the car and clean up the garage, and a lot of the things that I wanted to do all this time and just have been waiting for a good time. And I just fight and I fight and fight to keep everything normal. And I'll just be honest with you, when I have a slowdown in my life, my first reaction isn't to say, well, I think I'll use this time for some prayer now. It should be. I think it should be, but it isn't. And honestly, I know many of you would say the same thing if you were being totally honest. Your first inclination is not to use this time to press in and ask God and pray and look for an answer and read the scriptures or the New Testament and just really look for what God might want to tell us. Honestly, sometimes most times our first reflex is to go find something to check, or go find our next project, or check on some communication, or my hand reached for the phone or the remote, or to go and look for that thing that I can't remember where I left it. It's amazing how naturally we just fight. We fight to make that time into what it's always been. But it may just be that God wants to use this disruption in our lives to speak something to us, to answer a question. Maybe a question we didn't even know we were supposed to ask. What would it look like during this if the next time you felt things were getting a little slow, you felt like I'm spinning my wheels a little bit? What if rather than giving into the urge to reach for that phone or to look around for a remote or to start surfing and looking on Netflix for something new to watch, what if you left that behind in that moment, maybe an hour, a whole hour, let's say, and you said, what if I just stopped and went outside and walked and talked with God for that time and just asked Him some of the questions that are rolling around inside my soul? Who are you really, Jesus? Are you really who they say that you are? The Son of God. God is a man. Are you really who they say you are? Maybe it's, what do you really want to do with my life, God? Really? How long has it been since you asked Him that question? Sometimes we commit to following Jesus and we do things and we're around God a lot and we're involved, but we don't press in and really question what it is that He wants us to do, really. We get used to it. We get comfortable living a certain lifestyle, and we get into our comfort zone and we stay there. Sometimes we can go a long time without really pressing in and just asking, what do you want to do with my life, really, Jesus? What if this is your moment right now, in this time, this quarantine or corona time or whatever you call it, where you are? What is God going to tell you that you might not have your ears open to hear at any other time? Could it be there's something that He would be willing to show you or teach you or give you hope about in this time? What if this is your moment, just like the centurion's moment, to realize something that you might never have seen unless you gave God that time, like he was forced to? That's my challenge this morning. That's my challenge to you. The next time you feel that slowness, and you feel that urge to fight it and to go find something, do something, check on something, this time, let it be what it is in that moment. Find a room in the house somewhere to just be. I know it's hard for some of you, especially with family. The bathroom might be the only room that you have in the house right now where you can get some time to yourself. But maybe you can go outside for a walk on one of these nice spring days that we're having. Maybe you can go out in the garage for a few minutes, or just sit in your car an unusually long time on your way back from picking up some gas or something. I don't know what time it will be for you, but I do know that you will have a time like that. And I'm challenging you this time to use it, to just stop and pause your soul for a little bit and to ask God, what do you really want for me? Who are you really to me? If you've never asked that question before, then this could be a really, really big moment for you, because I believe that Jesus may just reveal to you who he really is. In fact, I believe if you give him the time, he'll speak quite clearly. He'll show something to you that you've never seen before. He'll use someone's conversation with you in a way that you've never gotten something from before. He'll show something to you in the New Testament if you open up and read the Gospel of John for the first time today. That would be a great place to start. I believe that if you start doing these things afresh, God will connect with you. God will show you something. God will teach you something. God will open your eyes. And if we're willing, if we'll allow him to do it instead of fighting it, we're going to gain a whole lot of peace from whatever that something is going to be. That's all I have for you this morning. I really appreciate you tuning in with us this morning. And if you want to share this message, I welcome you to do that. You can share us on Facebook or Instagram. You can also go to our YouTube channel, Faith Fellowship of Watertown. Please feel free to like and subscribe to our channel to get more updates or to go back and watch past messages. And please comment wherever you're watching from. Let us know where you're watching from, how things are going for you during this quarantine time. And we'd love to connect with you. If you would like to connect further with some people, some faith-based people, please join us for one of our community groups. We are using Zoom to facilitate all of our virtual groups right now, and we welcome you to go to our website, faithfellowshipwatertown.com, go to the groups section, and fill out a short little form where you can put in just a little bit of information, and we can connect you with one of our Zoom group leaders. I will see you soon. God bless everybody out there this morning, and I pray take into account what I've challenged you with today. This upcoming moment could just be your moment.